evening, everybody. I tell you, God is so good. I came down with an absolutely horrendous cold and sore throat yesterday morning, and I just couldn't talk. I got up this morning and I was like croaking like a good one. And I've been sort of like phoning people and sort of saying to them, I've got to speak tonight, please pray for me. And if push comes to shove, at least we've got the mic so you'll be able to hear me. So thank you. Right, as I stand here and I look around, I'm just so thankful and humbled to have my family with me. My brother and his family have come up from London. I've got a niece that's come over from Cardiff, and then there's my sister who's local, and then my two lovely sons. I've also got dance colleagues here, I've got work colleagues, and I've just got genuine friends. So praise the Lord, and I thank you all for being here to support me today. I grew up in a Christian home, going to church every Sunday with my mum and dad, even helping out with Sunday school. My brothers, sisters and I would often sing in the choir and other groups. I gave my heart to the Lord as a young teenager. I even got baptised in water and in the Holy Spirit. But I find that as I grew older and I started college and work, my faith just seemed to get in the way, and soon I'd become a backslider. I continued with my life, getting married, starting a family, eventually moving from London to Gloucester, the year before having my second son, Steve. In truth, it was actually to get away from the church that had such a strong hold on my husband. And so I thought, yes, we had a choice of, I think it was Gloucester or Milton Keynes, but my sister was here in Gloucester, and at the time he wanted to start a business, wanted to buy a house, so Gloucester we came to. Oh boy, but little did I know that the Gloucester branch of that church was even stronger than the one in London. So for me, it was out of the frying pan and into the fire, literally. At that point, you just don't know how much I hated God and the things that I would actually say about him and what he was doing to my family. Over the years, I still did believe in him, but it was a case of, you know what, I'm not just going to get caught up in any of that Christianity or any of that stuff again. Anyway, if we just fast forward a little bit, up until about sort of like 16 months ago, I would often go back to London sort of like 2 or 3 times a month to support my ageing family and my parents following the death of my younger sister. And I found that when I went back, I would actually start thinking, because my dad would always go to church on a Sunday, and my mum before she passed, and if I was down, I would actually go to church with them. And little by little, I actually started enjoying going down to church on a Sunday. And I normally worked sort of like, if I had Thursday, Friday off, then I would work the weekends, and I tried then swapping my shifts around so that I was actually working more on a Monday to Friday, so I could actually go down on a Saturday and attend church on the Sunday. And I was actually starting to enjoy it. So I think, you know, God just really wanted me back with him. Also, sort of during that time, you know, I was sort of like very image conscious, and I would wonder, you know, what would my friends and everybody say? I mean, after all the things I'd said about God in the past, but you know, I was sort of like, yes, I enjoy church, but it's definitely not for me. Anyway, go to last year, my youngest son got saved. And I came with him to his baptism last April, and boy, what a night we had. After that, he would invite me, and I would attend. I was very reluctant at first, because I'm a really private sort of person, and I like to keep myself to myself. When I first gave this testimony back on New Year's Eve, I actually said to the church members, that as bad as it sounds, I was quite weary of the black community. I'd actually been in Gloucester, I've been in Gloucester for like nearly 30 years, and lots of people don't actually know me. That's because I keep myself to myself, and I didn't really like the idea of everybody up in my business. Sorry. Good night, don't like it. I remember the first couple of times I came, I sat sort of like over there, and you see what they're like here. And they were getting up, they were singing, they were praising God, and I'm sort of thinking, you know, what are they on? Didn't actually want any of it, but I was thinking, this is interesting. But they were really happy, and I love dancing, so yeah, I would sort of like tap my feet but not get up or move. But what I did notice that sort of like after every service that I came to, somebody would always come up to me. They would always sort of like talk to me, ask me how I was, and they just made me feel so welcome. And eventually I sort of like started to come in on a more regular basis, and I'd find myself sort of like getting up and clapping and dancing and joining in. And little by little I really started enjoying myself and looked forward to actually coming here every Sunday. Going back, I just then started looking at Stephen, because I mean he's always been a good boy, but typical boy, and I sort of like looked at how he was living his life now, and since he'd sort of like found Christ and he was saved, the sort of impact it was having on him, and I thought to myself, do you know what? If he can change and you know God can do this to him, well then, you know, surely I can do it. And he just didn't care what people thought. So I thought, you know, I really need to be more like that.
Amen.
My turning point really came last November. I was at home on Saturday morning and I was feeling really ill. I was frightened and I was scared. And I actually thought, you know, as I was going downstairs, I thought I'm going to pass out. A couple of times I stumbled down the stairs, and I'd phoned Steve, and he sort of said, you know, Mum, if you feel worse, let me know and I will come over. I actually went down and I put my door on the latch, just in case I needed to call paramedics so that they could get in. And I think what really played on my mind was a colleague of ours at work. Something similar had happened to her just a few weeks ago. She'd been at home and she died alone. And you know, that just scared me. So I asked Steve to come over, and he came over and he stayed with me the whole day. I told him how I was feeling and my fears, and what he said really surprised me. He said to me, Mum, if you're to die, then when God says it's your time, it's your time. And there's nothing you can do about it. He said, but what you need to know is that when you do die and your time comes, you're going to go to heaven. And as I said, I was just stunned. I was expecting to say, oh, Mum, no, there you go, oh, it's all right, but none of that. The following Sunday, well, the following day I came to church, and Bishop Pete preached along very similar lines, telling us about some men who'd put off being saved, and then they went out and they were killed in an accident. When they sort of like started praying, Steve led me up for prayer. And throughout the course of the next sort of like week or so, I was really ill, and I was in bed and I just couldn't get those thoughts out of my head, and they just bugged me day and night. Eventually, in the quietness of my bedroom, I rededicated my life back to God, and the peace that I suddenly felt. When I went to church on the following Sunday, again, Bishop preached a similar sermon. And I thought, you know, you've been listening to me, you've been looking in, you've had my room bugged. And I thought, well, you know, that just really confirmed the decision that I'd made a few days earlier at home. It just told me it was the right thing I had to do. So when Bishop sort of like made the altar call, I knew that there was only one thing for me to do. I remember sort of like coming up to the altar, and there was just this peace that came over me. I was crying, and Sister Harrison, she prayed for me, and she was just so powerful. I'd made my decision to follow the Lord public, and suddenly, you know what, I don't care what people think. Because I serve a risen Christ, and I know that He's the only one that I need to be concerned with. That Monday, I couldn't actually wait to get back to work, to tell all my work colleagues my good news. And since then, so I work as a rehabilitation leader at Great Western Port. We do work with the elderly. But since then, every day, God has allowed me to speak my faith to somebody, whether it be resident service users, doctors, nurses, everybody. And I thought myself, you know, at the beginning of the month, Cynthia said to me, on the prayer and fasting, we need to get you baptised. And I was sort of like, yeah. I'll do it later on in the year, because they were running some classes, and I danced on a Monday, and it was on Monday, so I was like, well, I'm already committed, so I can't go. And I said this to Stephen, and he said, Mum, the most important thing is don't worry about the classes. You know what you have to do, you have to get baptised. So the day before my birthday, on the 2nd of February, I thought, you know what, that's what I'm going to do. And I'll tell you, that's the best decision I've made. Continue with me, and I just thank you all for your love and your support. And I pray that God will go with you, and that someone here has been touched by what we've all said tonight. Okay. God bless you. Thank you.